We love to talk about the idea of time travel. We have movies, concepts, thought experiments like the classic, would you go back in time and take out you-know-who? Or like our third video on this channel, what if you go back in time and take out your grandfather? There are always paradoxes in splitting into alternate timelines and worlds, etc. In that video, we talked about how physical time travel is not possible without technology that would allow for faster than light travel. Because if you left the point you are now in time and appeared in the past or future, you'd appear in deep space and then unalived. But what if physically traveling to the past to change it isn't at all necessary? What if you could do it in the present? What if your future self is doing it to you now? What if everything we do and think can send ripples of influence in multi-directional ways through time? And what if science is suggesting that this is actually possible? Well, it is. So the science of this is really called retro-causation, or backwards causation. It's really meant to explain the, as Einstein called it, spooky action at a distance, and the entanglement between particles. It goes back to the double slit experiment. We've talked about this before on the show. In one of the later experiments, they decided to measure the particles going through the slit at a later time to see if the act of measurement changes the state of the particle. What ended up happening is that this observation, they noticed the information of the particle seemed to have gone back in time and changed the previous state of the particle before it was measured. I.e., it went through the slit as a particle, then later got measured, and then it showed in that measurement that it went through as a wave. It went back in time and changed it to a wave, rather than the particle it originally went through. So this is what is called backwards causality, or retro-causality, and it's something that scientists are actively trying to wrestle with. What does this mean in regards to time? This time flowing in one direction? Well, in this aspect it certainly seems that it doesn't flow in one direction. It seems to be non-linear, and if we go off the old standard model, it's you go from point A to point B to point C, then this doesn't seem like it should be possible. However, if we were to look at what some theories are suggesting, that there's not only multi-dimensions, that there might be 4 or 5 or 6 different dimensions of time. Time could just be an illusion altogether. We've talked about this time illusion before in previous videos. If we take time and remove the arrow of time, and we regard time as a possibility of multi-dimensional aspects, let's think of it like a torus. So time moves in multi-directional ways, and then there's no real past, present, or future. Or you could say, if you want, and we'll talk about this in a bit, that the present is the only real, like the only real in time or existence. Let's take this out of the equation for now. Let's put it to the side. But let's say that the past and future exist all at one time. So you'll have one avenue of thinking about this, that if both exist at once, then this avenue is a deterministic outcome, meaning there's no free will. Everything has already happened, and we're just along for the ride, experiencing it in our present, where we are on that time scale. But that's just one avenue. Again, that really still goes on a linear time scale, and there's no intersecting between times, and there's no intersecting interconnectivity outside of more of a fabric. We like to think of things as a fabric and being connected in that way rather than being connected in multi-dimensional ways, because it's really it's difficult for our brains to wrap our heads around these kind of concepts. It's hard for us to conceptualize or imagine time working in various different ways. But some of this quantum entanglement is just this. It's something interacting from the present, which is the future of where we are in this event, and changing the past. And this is the basis of what we're trying to talk about here, a way that you can actually change the past. And when we talk about time travel, we're always talking about physical time travel. Like I said in the opening, we always anticipate going back in time physically. Now, what if we can do this, and what if we are doing this consistently and constantly with our thoughts and our feelings and our imagination? Let's say consciousness is similar to the functionality as quantum is in the quantum realm. Let's say that consciousness can entangle itself in ways just like the quantum realm. See, scientists, they really find that one realm and they think it's going to explain everything. And if you paid attention long enough, we know that science has breakthroughs all the time. They'll look for a long time at one aspect and think that that has all the answers. And then something else will come along and just blows it all up, just like quantum mechanics did. So let's say that consciousness works in this way, and this is speculation, mind you, but just go along with it. Let's say that consciousness entangles in a way that quantum entanglement works. So we can go into the past or the future. What implications would this have? What if consciousness could entangle itself with something like particles in the quantum realm? We have no way of proving this except, well, I mean, there might be a way to prove what I'm talking about. But let's just bear with me for a minute. Let's just take that example. We'll do this as a thought experiment. Our thoughts and our feelings and our imagination can entangle other consciousness in people or other times in past and future and present. Or like, think about a person who likes to reflect on their past. And we can say, I wouldn't call them studies, but it's known that very successful people seem to reflect on their past a lot more than unsuccessful people. And there's a few questions I have regarding this concept, for I sometimes think about the past, but I don't often think about the past. And I don't reflect maybe as often as I should. This very action of reflection and the ability to change your memories, and we all know that memories are malleable. There's been plenty of studies that say that memories are not reliable just because we do change or leave out and delete and alter our own memories because of what state we are currently in at the time we are remembering them. So they change and evolve over time. So maybe, does this actually change the past? I mean, it certainly can affect the present, and that's a past event affecting the present. And we're all okay with that aspect of the past affecting the present or the future. We know that our actions will have a chain of events that go on to affect the future. What if we could work in all three directions? What if your thoughts now obviously are going to influence the future, but if you reflect back on the past, what if that actually changes your present? In one way, you could say it does, because in your world, your memories and the world that you're creating, it definitely changes through the will that you want it to. You can imagine a whole bunch of things, and you can imagine who you are now. So in that aspect, you can change the present or the future by visiting the past. But what happens then is that you also have this shared reality where you can have other people who have also experienced the same situation that you have, so they can have memories of the events or things that you are trying to change. Would that change for them as well? Outside of any traumatic event, or, well, really even with traumatic events, you can alter other people's perceptions by how you explain your memory of the situation. You can make people doubt their memories very easily with some minor suggestions. So in this realm of consciousness, or our experience, I think we can really change our world. But a lot of times, when we're talking about going back in the past, we have to think, can we change physical reality this way? In the quantum realm, we know that we can. But how far does it go? Can you go back and change actual events in the past? If we were to go into the holographic universe or the universal consciousness universe, where everything that we experience as a reality is an illusion on some level, or a hologram or a projection, then in theory you should be able to go back and change past events. Maybe astral projection is one of these ways you could go back and change actual events. See, a lot of our world is just our shared agreement on what's going on. Science is there to really solidify our shared agreement. It's why people get really upset when you don't follow the science. It is essentially the same aspect of what a religion was and is. It's a fundamental sharing of what experiences we are having now. Science, you know, is based on observation and experiments and getting results that reflect either what they expected or didn't expect. There's a physical reality, but it's also a physical reality that we all have to share in. If we don't share in it, then it doesn't really exist. Now, we also know that history can be changed by people, the people who control history. That is, history is determined by the victor. Again, it's like a shared memory, right? And if you can alter the memory, then you can alter the reality from which you came from. Let's take it a step further and say all of our history, all of our past is an illusion. It's a made-up story that has been altered. Are we really sure that what has happened in our lives is really what happened? The only thing we can be sure of, because we can't be sure that the future exists, we don't know what's going to happen. the only thing we can really be ever sure of is the present moment. And the present moment is both fleeting, happens very quickly, but it's also always present. It is essentially, in reality actually, eternity. So you are experiencing eternity all the time, and it never goes away. There's only ever the present. The future and the past don't really exist, except on a shared interaction with two or more entities that are conscious, and that really devolves from a memory. And we know that memory can be altered, manipulated by either ourselves or by others, because there's a default program in us that doesn't want to seem crazy. So if many other people are telling us that this is the way, most of us go along with it, even if we don't remember it that way because we don't want to seem crazy. So there's already a lot of self-delusion and delusions that we hold on to because of consensus in other people. And then we get locked into a sort of reality that we all think or assume on some level is fake or false. Now, some of us rebel against this. Some of us go along with it. Some of us like the comfort or feeling that we're sane and don't want to push the boundaries of reality. If you look towards society right now, we're in a postmodern world where it pushes a lot of boundaries of reality. But I'd say not in a spiritual one, at least not at the beginning. I think we're going through a spiritual postmodernism that is just the beginning phases of these new discoveries. So what if you could focus your mind and focus your energies and focus your imagination, and in a sense, not physically travel back in time, but you could almost astral project back in time, go back and really visit those moments where maybe you made a bad choice or made one choice you wish that would go in another direction. So is this actually an experiment we could do? We could all work on this process and go back and try and change an event, small or big, and see if we could actually change the present. Now this question is, if you were to do this, which of your memories of the present would be altered as well? And if you're actively doing this, much like a lucid dream, you should be able to retain those memories because you're the active creator of those events. So in a sense, you could actually carry out this test and see if it could actually happen. Now, I'm interested in this myself and trying these techniques. The interesting concept here is you could go back in time, change your present, and change your future. When I was doing this video, I thought, what if those times that you got that, I don't know if you guys get this, but the inner voice that we all like to refer to as our conscience. What if that was really your future self reflecting back on your past? Or if that feeling, that conscience, that voice is really your future self thinking about that event you're doing right now. And whether you listen to it or not. If you listen to that voice, then that's your future changing its past. And if you think about that, and you think about how you reflect on the past from here on out, think about how you might be changing your present from that activity. So instead of just reflecting, maybe you're giving hints. Maybe you're talking to your past self with more authority, really trying to convince them instead of just reflecting with their current present emotions on how you reflect on that past. What if the act of changing is more than just reflecting? What if all of this is connected? It would mean ultimate free will and ultimate freedom of being able to manipulate all of time in your experience. If the present is really the only thing that ever exists and is eternity, then everything else around it should be malleable and should be able to change. If we have limitations on the present, we can't say that desk in front of you, we can suddenly think into existence that it turns into a fruit. I mean, our physical limitations is that we can destroy it with our hands and tools, or we could add to it, or we could clean it, we can manipulate it. So there seems to be ways to have limits on the present, but what if this present is the real only physical limitation we have? What if everything around the present is just what our imagination is for? That's what dreams are trying to tell us. What if it's all an illusion except for the moment in time of the present here right now? That you are experiencing in this experience of the present is formulated into a real sensation of matter because it has to be done that way in order to hold the illusion. But as soon as the moment of the present falls by the wayside, all the matter soon dissolves into nothing. it fades away as soon as that moment has passed. That matter in that present, in the past, no longer exists in the same state it did this previous moment. If we think of the present as eternity, what kind of power does that really give us? Could it be limitless? Well, I want to know what you think. Can our thoughts go back in time and change our current present or our past? I'd be interested to see what you think. If you like this content or you don't like this content, let me know in the comments below. If you do like it, please share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. It really helps out a small channel like this that we're trying to grow. And thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you next time.